Yo, 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 what's up, beautiful soul? Yo, what's good? What's good? Yo, so, listen, so I wanted to do a prophetic word tonight. You feel me? Um, Tonight's prophetic word is going to be on Genesis. Um, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to talk about, I remember last time in the last video, I was explaining that Spirit led me to the prophecy of Thoth and the prophecy of Thoth and Hermes. Okay, and the prophecy was now. The prophecy was stating that um, basically during a time people will lose sight of true spiritual enlightenment. They will be numb to the way of the shaman. That humanity will not follow the way of the shaman anymore, but they will follow a whole new path that will lead to humanity's destruction, quote unquote, another flood. Because this isn't the back in the day, of course, you're not going to see a major flood, right? But as I've been stating before, there's been attack on DNA, which is causing neurological effects. Everything happens so that a new world can arise. Okay. So as I asked Spirit, I was like, Spirit, I need more. I need more. You know, after reading the prophecy of Thoth and the prophecy of Hermes, it was clear and evident that basically the way of the shaman was the way of giving proper homage to those who created mankind. But because humanity lives in a box, they cannot wrap their minds around life being planted here by the angels or the quote unquote extraterrestrials or those of whom we are completely related to. Okay. So that's why you had people that were half God. You see people in Egypt depicted with half like birds' heads and feet. That's Thoth. He was a half hybrid of a of alien and human, right? Okay. So I wanted to give scripture that regular scripture that talked about aliens and this whole prophecy of that humanity has lost their way, so to speak. Okay. All right. So let's dive into this. All right. First off, have you ever thought about whether the Bible has anything to say about aliens? About whether there might be intelligent life out there somewhere? If you'd ever heard someone ask or try to answer that question, chances are they may have turned to Genesis 6. Some people speculate that this mysterious group in Genesis 4, called the Nephilim, may be extraterrestrials. These are aliens. This is the Bible's Roswell and Area 51. Okay, the Nephilim are the prestigious ones, the ones, the council of whom created mankind, but the ones that were for mankind. Remember that there is a group that half were for mankind and half were not for mankind. They were not for mankind because they felt as though half the council felt as though that humanity couldn't harness the sacred heart without complete lack of spiritual moral integrity. So this was the whole reason that they did not want humanity to have consciousness or higher consciousness because of this plague of narcissism that would be embedded in the flesh and dysfunction and pain and ridicule that would be next to impossible to get rid of. Okay. So a lot of people didn't want humanity to come to fruition. But then the council had the other side of the council of the Nephilim had a higher, better, bigger expectations for humanity. Okay, so let's get back into this. But before you get the wrong impression about this sermon, let me play the spoiler and say up front that I don't find any shred of indication anywhere in the scriptures that there are intelligent life anywhere in God's whole wide universe other than planet Earth. Okay? Let me just say they are here and they are everywhere, okay? Now, not in scripture, I haven't seen, but subliminals, right? Personally, it's a different story, okay? However, in scripture, let me just reword that. There doesn't say that they are intelligent life forms per se, quoted like that, okay? The word they're using for intelligent life forms in the Bible is Nephilim, okay? Let's be clear. Okay, Christians are a whole Bible people who keep those Bibles open, have no reason whatsoever to the suspect of God by intelligent material life elsewhere in the universe. So here at the outside of this very tricky passage, let's at least rule the aliens came to Earth to view the Nephilim. Okay, we need to keep in mind the reason you don't see aliens. You're not going to see them is because of the corruption that after Adam and Eve bit that apple and okay, let's first Spirit said that humanity was created to be immortal and to never get sick. That's what Spirit said. Okay? To be immortal and never get sick. That was the goal when humanity was created. Okay? When Adam and Eve bit that apple, that's when the flood happened because of the dysfunction, the incest, the stuff that's going murder, famine, the stuff that's going on now was all because Adam and Eve bit that apple. So the grandfathers, because years had to go by to see how humanity was going to turn out, the Nephilim, the higher ups, the council was displeased and caused a flood. We're following? Okay, so Spirit said the same thing is going on now. Okay, where it's turning into a plague. Narcissism is turning into a plague. I'm not saying there's going to be a flood, okay? I'm saying there's a plague of dysfunction, narcissism, and there is something, a safe sake going on in spiritually to fix it. And just how you have to burn the old grass to get the new grass. That's what you're seeing in humanity right now. A lot of y'all don't want to hear this, but I'm the truth, and I'm here to tell the truth. That's why it's good to make you keep your karma good. Okay? Of course, the Bible does touch on the spiritual, intelligent beings made by God, called angels. This passage is not about aliens, but a question raises from some is, who are these sons of God? Mentioned in verse 2, who took as wives the daughters of men, were the angelic human hybrids prior to the Noah's flood. The alien view may be out, but the angel view is one of the two main views through church history, as we'll discuss in a few minutes. Okay, so so some of these Nephilim, the Anunnaki, y'all could call them however y'all want to call them, Anunnaki, which they all came from intelligent life forms from a whole totally different planet that's been here millions of years, and they needed something to hold the soul. Okay, so as it's stated in the Bible, they took wives. So the ones that were not for mankind, that felt like we were not worthy to reach a higher consciousness, like shamans do, right? They felt that we weren't ready. So then you had the other ones that felt like, no, we're with it. And then you had the ones that came down and had babies with the women. After Eve had that apple, they had their way with the women and that's when you had giants. That's when you had giants. That's when you had minotaurs. Have y'all seen that movie with Hercules where they had the Minotaurs, you had the Hercules, the Iphilim and the Anunnaki mixed breeds that had the hybrids, and that's when you had these mixed breeds and you had all this type of stuff going on. Okay, um, so and so that everything had to be redone all over again, right? All right. Um, this was the whole reason for these floods and all this stuff that was going on. I want to read this because a lot of people out here acting without spiritual moral integrity, not treating people how they want to be treated, not leading with a sacred heart. Okay. And this is the reason all this stuff happened, and we need to pay, if we're reading the Bible, need to pay attention to how everyone is treating each other and conducting themselves, because unity is the key to a higher conscious universe, and that right there is the goal. Okay, so the great wickedness of a human heart, verse 5, the Lord saw that the wickedness of a man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually, without barriers, without spiritual moral integrity. So very low vibrational was the expectations of humanity. So like the Neanderthals, like just angry, just unable to balance emotion, incest, dysfunction, hurting each other, animals, you know what I'm saying? As we've seen, Adam and Eve rebelled against God, called Cain and Abel. Cain's line, even with its cultural and technical advances, spiraled downward in increasing sin. A global flood is no exaggerated response to such rebellion. Human wickedness is growing and deepening. Every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Every intention only evil continually. In other words, great and total. Man's sin and rebellion are not small but great, and not partial but total. Okay, so I remember seeing we got these networks that's condoning a lot of non-spiritual moral integrity, that's condoning a lot of division and all this type of false narratives that's not helping the world reach a higher consciousness. Okay, at the end of the day, this was why there was a flood, the great wickedness of human hearts. Let's take a look at them words right there. Okay, that's narcissism, the plague of narcissism and selfishness and jealousy and hate and all that low vibrational energy that's causing a bruise on humanity. And that's clearly what's been going on. Now you got war because of power. Listen what's going on right now. Genesis 6:5 give us our first glimpse in the Bible of what we call total depravity. Total depravity means that our sin is so great and so deep that we are unable to free ourselves from it. Okay, that's that psychosis that Linda Dunderbar you in when you're depressed and you're trying to kill yourself, and that's what you're not supposed to do. Okay, that's not what the goal. You understand what I'm saying? You're put through these tests in order to free yourself, your strength and tenacity, right? We're totally unable to save ourselves. Total depravity doesn't mean that all humans are as bad as they could be, but that they are no part of us unaffected by sin and no way for us to rescue ourselves. We are beyond self-help, which is very offensive to hear today, offensive to hear today in our society centered on self. Okay, self-explanatory. But you might ask, is this still true about humans today? All these people in Genesis 6, except for Noah, were wiped out by a flood. There's a new start for the human race. Surely the total depravity has left behind, washed away in the flood. Listen, okay? What sets now humanity, rather than it's another year, just a different time versus that time? Have characters changed? Have control, moderation changed? Have is sobriety still an issue? Is abuse still an issue? Is hatred still an issue? Is violence still an issue? Is finding peace and healing childhood trauma still an issue? To where nobody is sticking together for the goodness of love and light and not thinking about Mother Gaia and the true wisdom and knowledge of the utmost high, like God, and who he appointed to watch over us. Turn over the page to Genesis 8:21 and God's promise after the flood. I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Okay, no, you gotta be. If you're not raised to be a good steward, you won't be. Because idle mind, idle hands. You don't know what to do but lose yourself unless you immediately turn to spirit. No, total depravity is not gone with the flood. It came into the ark with Noah and his family, and we'll see evidence of that when we get to Genesis 9 and then throughout the Bible. Psalms 51:5. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Okay, you're born into. I don't know if you heard that when your mother have you, your karma. She's yours. Your pain going to her. That's why you feel the same ill she feel. If you was addicted to drugs, you're gonna deal with the same demons unless she raised you to defeat those demons. Family curse and family karma, if it's not addressed prior to having children, your children's gonna have to deal with that karma, period. It's like inheritance. You're carrying it on, okay? And I just pray that you follow spirit first, so all you beautiful souls, okay, that are dealing with that, because a lot more than it's the majority that is dealing with that, okay? Let's be clear. Okay, Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Okay, that's why shadow work is important. Understanding yourself. Who am I? Creating a balance. Emotions, the heart. Healing that heart. Okay, that's the goal of this school called Earth. Romans 3:9-11. All are under sin as it is written. None is righteous. No one understands. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they will become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Okay, this is the intention that was set on humanity. That we've been eagerly the soul people, the people of spiritual nature that are doing the right thing. The shamans are this what we do daily to try to prove the council wrong, that we are worthy with the sacred heart, with unity, love, and light, as they created us to create amazing vibrations for the entire universe. Okay. Romans 7:8. I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. Okay, your flesh has that pain and that the miles on it, but that soul is what could tame that flesh. So don't get discouraged. If you work on that soul and that spirit, and you be what God intended for you to be, this don't mean nothing. And perhaps the passage that best gets at the heart of what total depravity is Romans 8:7-8. The mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God, for it does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Those who are in the flesh cannot please God. Hold on, let me read that again. The mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God, for it does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Those who are in the flesh cannot please God. In the flesh, low vibrational, y'all that don't forgive people, gaslighting people, Just smile in somebody's face and then give a dirty look behind their back. If you're not balanced, if you are jealous, envious person, evil, you know who you are. You know what I'm saying? God don't like ugly, period. So stop trying to go around. You can't be a good person. There's only one standard to a good person. Okay? So the first reason God flooded the world was the great wickedness of human hearts. And we just went through that. And so nobody is listening to, so right now there's an issue. If I want to say myself, right? There's like a big problem going on. A lot going on right now. Okay? Us shamans, nobody is turning to us for the wisdom and the knowledge of what's going on. Okay? God is setting people in position. He's burning the old crop so the new crop can sprout. That's what's going on right now. The great grief of God's own heart. Verses 6-7. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out men whom I have created from the face of the land, men and animals and creeping things and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry I have made them. Okay, this is because of you. We just talked about the heart. If this don't make you want to be a better version of yourself and a good person, I don't know what will. Human sins grieve God. This is a very important point not to miss. The very easy to miss because it is our sin. We are so prone to take sin lightly, both in ourselves and in others. We know God is big and gracious, and we may begin to believe the lie that my little sins don't matter at all. It's karma. Even the little things matter. Picking up some litter matter. Throwing a little cup on Mother Gaia like you ain't tripping matter. Because you don't have no type of empathy. You don't have no type of empathy, and that's exactly why God didn't want a man on earth. Because a lot of people not trying to fight and have empathy for not just Mother Gaia and the trees and the air and the insects and the birds and the animals. A lot of them don't even have empathy for themselves. Okay? Where I'm at. But that sort of light treatment and sin reflects a tragic lack of knowledge of God. To know that heart of God is to know the grievousness of sin. Those who know God cannot be cavalier about sin because he is not, whether it is excusing our own or condoning the sins of others. He is not indifferent to human sin. To take sin lightly is to take God lightly. Listen, it's okay to notice character flaws in yourself. To redo those programmed, dysfunctional character flaws in your mind. It's important because you're breaking something toxic that was put into you. But you're not only breaking it for you, you're breaking it for a lot of people that they probably don't even know. You understand what I'm saying? But if you don't do this self-work, this shadow work on that shadow work on those character flaws of like low vibrational energy, of insecurity, depression, bipolar disorders, and all of that, without using medication to self-medicate so you're not healing at a core level, what type of strength do you have as a human being? You're not using your all to defeat these things. God want A1 players on his team. And if you trying to go cut corners, you feel what I'm saying? And you still trying to like, it's okay to make mistakes and sin every so often. But if you're not trying to gradually fix, there's a problem. You're not evolving. The goal here is to evolve effectively with spiritual moral integrity, with causing less pain and hurt as possible, and helping and loving and sharing. Of course, you're going to have bad days. Of course, you might get into a little tussle. Pray with the person after, or something. But it's okay. But the goal is to move forward and to evolve and to be a better version of yourself for the utmost highlight God and for the ancestors that gave you that blood to break the curses that's been bestowed upon your lineage because of the lack of heart and empathy that your lineage have probably got themselves into. If you're reading this, it's your time to break that family curse of whatever has been put there. This can be promiscuity, the beast of immorality, the beast of sexual perversion, the beast of, there's a lot of beasts out here of dysfunction, immorality, and a lot that could, character flaws that are on lineage curses that could be fixed. Okay. So far, we have very bleak picture: humanity depraved, and God grieved. And as we move to verse 1 and 4 and ask about the Nephilim, it's not getting any brighter, not yet. But there is a ray of hope in verse 8. I want us to catch and carry with us back to verse 1 and 4. In the midst of falling and failing human race with mindset of the flesh, hostile to God, and God grieved by the deep rebellion of his creatures. Verse 8 reads, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord in these dark clouds of Genesis 6, 1 through 7. A lightning bolt of grace flashes in verse 8. Note the favor. That favor comes to Noah before anything is said about his good conduct. Okay. First, verse 8, Noah found favor in his eyes of the Lord. Okay. Listen, spiritual moral integrity, there's no gray area. Okay, a good person is a good person. Righteous is righteous. Verse 9, Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. Come on. We shouldn't make too much of the ordering here, but we also shouldn't overlook it. Another way to translate favor is his grace. This is the first mention of grace in the Bible, and given what we learn about grace in the rest of the Bible, I doubt it's significant that Genesis leads with God's grace and then mentions Noah's righteous life. But the other way around, grace came first and empowered a life of righteousness, not righteousness came first and earned the reward of favor. So you got to have grace. So once you get that grace, it creates this sense of righteousness. You know what I'm saying? Once you have grace and gratitude for the here and now, that's when you become righteous. You got to be comfortable at the bottom before you got to have been through some mud before you could get this feeling of really feeling righteous, because you know what to do and what not to do. You feel what I'm saying? So you got to have this gift of grace. You found this gift of grace from the Lord, and then that's when the righteousness took over, and then he rewarded with favor. Okay, God's favor, then holy behavior. From Noah's birth into the arks. Now at last we come to the verse 1 and 4 to find out that what is going on between the first mention of Noah at the end of chapter 5 and the return of Noah in 6:8. We need to begin by seeing that this is all one section. The break between chapter 5 and 6 in our English Bibles may throw us off. In Genesis 6:7 is not the beginning of a new section, but continues the flow of chapter 5. Noah was just introduced at the end of chapter 5, and Noah will be reintroduced in 6, 8, 9. Excuse me, I wrote this earlier. What verses 1-7 do is answer the question, what happened between the high hopes of Noah's birth, 5:28-9 and through 29, and the rising flood waters? How did the godly line catalog in chapter 5 lead to the destruction of the world through the global flood? That how verses 1 through 4 answer our question about why God flooded the world. The great compromise of God's people. There is a great compromise here. And highlighting it is one way of getting at the reasons for the great flood. To explain what the great compromise is, let's finish by answering three questions. Who are the sons of God in verse 2? Who are the Nephilim in verse 4? And what does it mean to us today? First, who are the sons of God? The sons of God may land on us as a surprising phrase, especially if we are just opening up our Bibles and beginning to chapter 6 and haven't caught the flow of chapters 4 and 5. What Genesis has been doing in chapters 4 and 5, going back to the curse of the serpent in Genesis 3 and 3:15, is setting up a tale of two cities, the city of man and the city of God. Okay, this is flesh and spirit. In this sense, the great story of all history, the story two offsprings. Um, Remember what God said in the serpent of Genesis 3:15. Okay, the God and man. This is when he said talking about the God of man. This is when the inbreed, the hybrids of God and man happened back then, and around the Egyptian time, and then how that all happened, and then also after that, that's when during the time of Noah, they came down and had sex with the women, and the Anunnaki was before Egypt, but then aliens came down during the time of Noah and had babies, and these were the giants. Okay, so let's keep that straight. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between you offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. What we saw last week was the Eve thought she got her offspring with Cain, but chapter 4 shows us that Cain actually becomes the offspring of the serpent. Okay, like the rest of mankind. Ephesians 2:1-3, 2 Corinthians 4:4. Sin crouches at the door, desires to consume him, and he does not rule over sin, but rather is ruled by the serpent. Okay, Genesis 4:7. Then after we get to the genealogy of Cain, Genesis 4:17-24, the city of man, God starts again to speak in chapter 4. Instead of a son gotten, a son is given. Okay, his name is Seth. Eve, excuse me. Eve had said at the birth of Cain in 4:1, I have gotten a man. But in 4:7, she says offspring. God has appointed me another offspring instead of Abel. Appointed. Cain's line in chapter 4:7-24 is the line of man, the first house of Adam, which becomes the offspring of the serpent. The Seth's line, chapter 5, is Adam's second house. We saw last week how an alternative history begins to unfold in chapter 5. This is the godly line, the sons of God, the line of promise, the line of promise. As man begins to multiply in the earth, God appoints a godly line. And chapter 5 ends on a high note. Noah and a son, great promise, and the godly line is born. The Genesis 6:1-4 comes in to explain how we got from his high note of promise to the low note of human depravity in Genesis 6:5. The answer is great compromise, right? When he come to the Genesis 6:1 with chapters 4 and 5 in view, it shouldn't be a big surprise to us who the sons of man of God are. This is godly line that just unfolded in chapter 5. These are God's special people in the midst of the corrupt and depraved humanity of chapter 4. Okay, Genesis 6:1 takes us back when man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters, not sons, were born to them. Okay, the chapters 4, okay, so the daughters, and then gives us the tragedy, verse 2. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took as their wives and they chose. So they had all sons, and then the sons had all daughters, and then that's when they came down and had sex with that's when all the what's called it was born, the giants and stuff like that. They had sex with all the daughters. Okay, this compromise of godly line with the ungodly rest of humanity. This sons of God, the special people of God, who trace their descent to Seth, and given son appointed by God. God's people compromised, just like Eve saw the tree was good and took. So now, Genesis 3:6. So now the sons of God saw the daughters of man were attractive, same word of good, and took their wives. Genesis 6:2, in other words, just as Eve disobeyed God's law and ate the forbidden fruit, so God's specially appointed people neglected God's calling and took forbidden wives. So, to put it as clearly as I can for you, in answer to our first question, the sons of God in verse 6 in the line of Seth's just developed in chapter 5. Okay, angels. Now, I said at the beginning that some Christians think these sons of God are angels. Okay. Later in the Bible, the phrase "the son of God" does refer to angels at times. Okay. The addition to reading sons of God within the context of Genesis 4 and 5, here are a few other brief reasons why it seems highly unlikely that sons of God here means angels. Sons of God doesn't mean angels till much later in the Bible, and the phrases does not mean angels every time it's used. Besides, the other readers didn't have to rest on the scripture to compare. Okay, the intermarriage of sons gods with daughters of man is part of what is given as a reason for the flood, which punished humans, not angels. If doesn't make sense for God to punish man for angel sins, right? um, Genesis 1 emphasizes how everything in God's creation reproduces after its kind. Humans reproduce with humans, not angels. Angels are spirit beings, not material. Being seen by special provision is one thing, being touched in another, having reproductive organs quite another, and others still taking keep the human wife. Excuse me. Took their wives, and typical phrase for marriage, not rape or assault, but actually taking and keeping as a wife. So that's when you've seen a lot of in these throw off movies of Zeus, and they coming down and Zeus having kids and having Hercules, and that stuff is there's a true basis to that, right? Um, so they was able to have these offspring of kids with like these special abilities that still carry these genes supposedly to this day, right? And it didn't start there; it started at in the beginning of time in Egypt. Okay, nothing we know about angels elsewhere in the Bible includes that think that there's any real possibility that they could marry and procreate with humans. Matthew 22:30, Matthew 12:25, Luke 20:34, 36 actually says, well, how would you know, right? Let's be clear, that's how you were made. Okay. And so let's just say basic instructions for leaving the earth. We got to take what resonates, right? Um, they neither marry or given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. That doesn't necessarily say anything about angelic reproduction or reproductive organs, but it does say expressly that the opposite of what Genesis 6 says, that angels do not marry. Um, the sons of God then are not angels, but the godly line of chapter 5, and the daughters of man are women from the rest of mankind. But what's not nearly as clear to me is our second question: who are the Nephilim? Okay, second, by ruling out the sons of God and not angels, we at least rule out one popular interpretation that the Nephilim are angelic human hybrids. But who are these mysterious Nephilims then? I can't give you a confident answer, but I think I can point us into some good options. It is important to note that the text does not say that the Nephilim are the offspring of the intermarriage of the godly line with the rest of humanity. Verse 4 comes in not to explain who the sons of God are or what the offspring of the sons of God and daughters are of men are, but almost as an aside. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, they bore children to them. It does not say that the Nephilim were on the earth because sons of gods came in the daughters of men came in into the daughters of men by when the question to ask then is why I mention the Nephilim. What purpose does verse 4 serve? Does it contribute somehow to the wickedness that brought about the flood? Okay, so as I dived into this energy of the Nephilim, The Nephilim is a high council of higher beings. Okay, no lie. Appointed by God. That's watching everything. Okay, let's be clear. Some of y'all don't want to hear this. Genesis 6:4 does have something to say about us, about the Nephilim means in the past. Last part of the verse. These were mighty men who were of old. Old. The men of renown. Renown. Okay? Renown. Okay? Okay, the Spirit drove me to do this prophetic word. And it's not, first of all, it's to keep it a buck with y'all. It's to keep it real. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't want to hear, but it's facts. And we got to start stating facts instead of keeping everybody in a box. Man, if I could only put everybody in my shoes so people understand how it is to be a shaman and to understand that this box that majority have been raised to live in is all a lie. And I don't want to say a lie. It's been a false narrative. There's been a false narrative. There is God. There is love, light, and unity. But it's very funny because of the division and the hatred and the pain and the type of things that are going on in humanity at this moment. These are the same things that caused the flood. And again, let me go back to the great wickedness of human hearts and the flesh. Okay? Love combats all evil. Okay? This attack on DNA and all this other type of stuff, it's because it's attacking the weak people that are kind of like spiritually in limbo, and some people are just time to pass, but some are just passing because it's a lot of dead weight. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay? Some are just their time to go because it's written in the records and in the acoustic records, it's their time. But others, a lot of this stuff is happening because there needs to be a new standard set. We need to remember unity, love, and light. The only reason you guys haven't seen no aliens and nothing like that is because humanity is so a narcissistic based type of sociology that's going on in humanity. So they are scared to even announce themselves because of the fear, because of the reputation, the false narrative. It's good and bad, everything. It's good and bad, everything. But if you read the Bible for real, there is a council. Angels, ancestors, sending messages, other beings. That's all. I'm not here to beat this down. But tonight, I want to just keep it a buck with y'all. All this is going on because of this right here. The great wickedness of the human hearts, which caused the flood. And to ask yourself, is this going on right now? Is this a pandemic in itself? Let's put human narcissistic hearts right there. Listen. I hope y'all enjoyed this, y'all. I really did enjoy this wisdom and knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I get shocked too, with some things, and I really enjoyed this. Um, I know this is outside the box. I ask that you guys get outside that box, get some real wisdom, some real knowledge. You feel me? Um, you don't have to know them to love them. You don't have to know them to wish them well. Unity is the only way to a higher conscious universe. Okay? We all got to do better. I'm seeing the young man killed his teacher in the school. Y'all gonna listen to me. All this stuff going on ain't just going on for no reason. I need to let go to y'all shamans, get that energy cleansed out. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. But I'm here. Listen, my name is Josh Sterling. I'm a shaman. I'm a spirit medium. I talk to the dead. I could connect to any energy, and a past loved one. I could hold an object and connect to a past loved one if you want to reach them. I see past, present, and future. I am that I am. I am a healer. I heal the soul plexus. I could do multiple things. I connect to the soul plexus of the living as well. And I'm an oracle. So I'm here for it. I am that I am. Okay. Listen, if I could be just regular schmegular, like, and I have, it's a job in itself. So I'm not here to glow. I'm not here to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not here for clout. I just had to keep it a buck and do what God put it on my heart to tell you. You feel me? Love is the only thing that combats evil. Again, there's unseen forces out here at this time that's running rapid, that's attaching to people with to dependency, drugs and alcohol issues, violence issues. There's unseen entities that's loving that. You know what I'm saying? The beast is dead and he needs to stay dead. You know, he's still out here lingering, because he's thirsty right now. And, that's why you're seeing all this stuff going on. You feel me? So we cannot give in to the beast. Okay? Pay homage to Mother Gaia. Pay homage to Mother Gaia. Love on somebody. Smile. Don't forget to go in the mirror 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night, and tell yourself, I love you. I love you and I forgive you. You are more than a conqueror. You are victorious. I love y'all, yo.